In this video, we'll be reviewing Gearing's customized BC Tracker inventory prompts and how they impact the inventory module. To start with, we are going to identify the inventory item we're going to be using for testing. So if we go into the inventory module and the maintain inventory file, we can see that we have a quick filter set for only inventory items that have a quantity actual balance. Currently there are only two, item ID 1 and item ID 11. I will be using item ID 11 for this test, which we can see currently has a quantity actual of 1,116.50.
If we go into the inventory edit screen, we can see that quantity actual is listed here. And then if we go into the manage lot screen, and we can see that the quantity actual is made up of these two individual lots, which is lot 134 and lot 135. Now, when interacting with BC Tracker, usually a user would have a barcode that is printed out from the receiving screen. However, it is possible to print another label at any point using the print option in the inventory browser. In this case, I'm going to be using lot 134. And if we just take a quick look at that, so this is what a typical label would look like, and we can see down here at the bottom, we actually print out the text that is included in the QR code. So I'm going to copy and paste this for use with BC Tracker. So we'll be doing the equivalent of scanning that QR code. Okay. So to launch BC Tracker, we'd be going into Gearing's EXEs folder and then to the BC Tracker folder right here. And we can just launch bctracker.exe. Now, if this is the first time that you're launching BC Tracker from your machine, it will not be using either the job tracking or inventory tracking prompts. To set that up, you'd have to go to prompts setup and then load, and you'd select either inventory tracking or job tracking depending on what you want to evaluate. In this case, I'm going to be selecting inventory tracking. Okay, so this asks us to scan an employee ID. I'm going to identify an employee to use. All right, let's go ahead and use 012347, Lance Bowers. 012347. That identifies who scan this, and when it asks for the scan inventory ID, that's when it's asking to scan that QR code from the label. So I'm going to paste that value. Now it asks us to identify which job number the inventory usage is related to. Now, if I hit F1 or click End Job Scan, you'll see that it requires that we specify at least one job. However, we can specify multiple job orders. So you can specify as many as needed. So let me just identify a job number to use here. So I'm just going to use the most recent job, which is 99305. 99305. Alright, and you can see that we stay on the scan job number prompt screen, so we can enter additional ones or we can end. I'm going to go ahead and end. Next, it asks if the package is empty. If the user answers yes, then the lot quantity will be brought down to 0, which I will show in a subsequent scan. But if we answer no, then instead it'll prompt for the current quantity of the lot. Now this can be entered in two different ways. One way is using the scale. So the way the scale works is it actually just pastes the contents of the clipboard into the input bar. The assumption being that the HID server software is running, which is constantly
reading the scale and loading the contents of the scale value into the clipboard so that BC Tracker can just paste from that. When doing that, the value will be positive. So if the value is positive, then the lot amount will be set to whatever is entered here. Um, Additionally, the user can subtract an amount. So in that case, they'd enter either a negative amount or they can enter an amount and hit the minus button, and instead of setting the balance to that amount, it will subtract that amount from the balance. Um, that's used in the case where the packaging is too large to fit on the scale. So we'll go through all three of these examples. We'll start with just setting the actual balance. So currently, the quantity actual for the lot is 616 and 0.5. So if I just enter in, say, 500, we would expect that it would reduce the quantity actual by 116.5. So if I go ahead and enter that, next it is asking us for the location. The location gets saved into the lot so that they can accurately track where the lot is, and we can look up the location codes from the inventory module under lookup location codes. Okay, I'm going to enter in
Hamden here. Okay, and the scan was complete. So now if I go to the inventory menu, we can go into the lookup inventory scan log. And if we go all the way to the bottom for the most recent entry, we can see here is an entry created from me today for item ID 11. I may have grabbed the wrong lot. I think the lot I grabbed may have already been 500. In this case, because we said 500, there was no change, so nothing was adjusted, but it did log that the scan occurred, and let's just go and double check that. So if we go to the inventory module, back to maintain inventory file, you can see the quantity actual remains the same. If we go into the manage lot, yes, so I actually did take 134, which is the 500. I thought I was working with 135. All right, so the quantity actual is currently 500. I entered in 500, so no change was made. Let's go ahead and scan through that again. And this time I'm going to enter in 430 for the new total amount of the lot. So after it says inventory is updated successfully, if we look at the scan log, can see here there is a new scan log. So it shows that the quantity adjust is -70, so it reduced the balance by -70, and the new quantity actual is 430. So that is reflected in the scan. If we go to the inventory module, we can see that the quantity actual for the item list has been reduced. And if we go into the manage lot, we can see that the quantity actual of that lot has changed. In addition, we now have the ability to go into inventory track, which shows the logs, the scan logs that are relevant to this inventory item. So we can see these are the ones that were done today. Okay, so next we'll go through and
do another entry where we're reducing it instead of entering in the new value. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to enter in 30 and minus it. All right, now if I go back to the scan log, you'll see that negative 30 is the quantity adjust, 30 is the value we entered, and it reduced it from 430 to 400. And if we go back to the inventory module, see that the quantity actual has reduced further. We go to manage lot, you'll see that it is now showing 400. And you can see here that these last adjust date, time, and buy are updated whenever a scan is done, so you can see how recently that lot was interacted with. Okay, so for the last scan, I am going to indicate that the package is now empty so that I don't actually have to enter in any quantity. So I will say, yes, the package is empty. Now notice that when I say the package is empty, it doesn't ask me for the location. The location is no longer important because that package is assumed to be gone. The lot is gone. There's no reason to track it anymore. All right, now if I go back here and we look at the log, we can see that the location is blank for that scan because we did not enter it, and the quantity adjust is minus 400, and the new lot amount is 0. If I go back to the inventory, we'll see that the quantity actual for that item is now only for the lot 135, and we can verify that by going into the manage lot screen, and there's just the one lot. Now we can still see that other lot. It still exists in the system. It's just being filtered out by this quick filter, but it does exist if we need to modify it. For example, here we could enter in a quantity actual to put it back into a balance. And for example, if I do that and save, you see that the quantity actual for the item list updates, but also if we look up the scan log, we can see that even manual entries are reflected in this log, so that everything that changes the quantity actual is in this log, including deletions. So for example, if I go back to the inventory and I delete this entry here, I save, you can see that the quantity actual is now just the first lot, lot ID 134. And if I go to the scan log, you can see that 135 is here, and it has recorded that the quantity has gone to 0. Um, so that is currently all of the ways of updating the quantity actual. It can either be done by scanning, or it can be done by manually editing the lots, and either case, those will be reflected in the scan log. All right, thank you very much.